ready for today's game.
Into the end zone, touchdown!
The Publix Tailgate Show is brought to you by the University of Florida, Farah and Farah, Yucatan Guacamole, Baptist Health, and by EverBank. The Publix Tailgate Show starts right now.
It is a bright, beautiful, sunny December morning in Jacksonville. Hard to believe we're talking about December football already, but indeed we are. Welcome into the Publix Tailgate Show. Brian Sexton along with Mike Dempsey, and we are headed into the teeth of Week 13 with the Texans and the Week 14, right? Texans and Jaguars. I'm lost
13.
in weeks. 13? Okay. Yeah, right. Great. Okay. I had too much turkey on Thanksgiving.
1 week off, man, and you've lost your mind.
The tryptophan is still kicking in. How was your Thanksgiving?
That was good. It's always good.
Good.
Hard to have a bad Thanksgiving.
Well, if the turkey isn't done just perfectly, it can be.
I guess, but that was not an issue.
Right. A couple of days in the rearview mirror, so we'll leave that one there. Big day for the Jaguars. They have a 6-game stretch, 4 games against the AFC South, Mike, and even though most people are counting the Jaguars out, they're not, which gives you hope that this team is ready to play after a bye week.
Well, what gives me hope is that the quarterback is doing everything he can to be out there, right? Despite missing a couple of games. And the fact that they are mathematically alive, Brian, I mean, look, the Jags are a team who's only managed to win 2 out of 11 games. They would have to run the table to stay relevant down the stretch here. Highly unlikely to do so. They do have some control of it because they have a lot of division games, but all it takes is a couple wins by the Texans to put the division out of reach. But that's what gives me hope is that Trevor Lawrence can elevate this offense. We saw the fall off when he's not in there. I think getting him back in there, a healthy Tank Bigsby, getting everybody refreshed a little bit coming off the bye week, and hopefully putting that debacle of the game in Detroit behind them, let them feel like they have something to play for, at least mathematically today they do.
And the only thing they can play for is the division. They couldn't be a wild card team. They're so far behind the other contenders there. And here's one other thing to note. The Jaguars' best record in their history in the AFC South is 4-2. They're 1-1 with 4 games to play. Should they win all 4 of those games, they could be 5-1, which would be their best ever showing in the AFC South, and that's not an insignificant thing. It's not the playoffs. I get it. But for them to finish strong against the AFC South would be important for this franchise.
Oh, absolutely. It could send a message, but, look, it doesn't always carry over from one year to the next. But This team needs to start winning games this year, to break out of this funk. They've had back-to-back winning seasons, but last year was a disappointment. They should have been building off what they did in 2022, and they've been backing up so far.
All right, so the Texans and Jaguars, if you're doing the math in your head, coming up just after 1 o'clock. And today's game is presented by the University of Florida Health, the proud healthcare partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's also My Cause, My Cleats, and you probably have seen some of those stories throughout the course of the week. We learned this week also that 2 of the Jaguars' coaches would be wearing cleats that were dedicated towards breast cancer survivorship and healthcare in that sense. Both Ryan Nielsen and Bill Shuey, 2 defensive coaches' wives, have been battling that. So our best wishes and thoughts and prayers out to those families as they have battled a tough season and obviously, more importantly, even tougher at home for them to have to deal with that. All right, let's get going, Mike. Big stories of today and the week. The next 6 weeks could be either really hard or really easy, depending on the results on the field. The head coach knows that either way, it's up to him to set the tone and to keep his team focused on playing their best football every single week.
Each day I walk into this building, I choose not to let it get me down. I choose to be energetic around the football team. I choose a message each week that I feel is important that the guys need to hear. And then, of course, that applies to, keys to victory and different things that we do throughout the course and things we talk about as a team as the week progresses. So, I know there's a lot of negativity around us, and rightfully so. We understand that. Around me, I understand that. But I choose not to listen to it, and I choose to go the other way and be positive, because you only get so many days and so many opportunities in this league, and then your days are done. And when they're done, you look back and you go, hey, I gave it everything, that I had, to these players, to this team, to this league. And that's what I choose. And I choose to go out, every single day and try to make a difference for this team.
So there's the leader.
Well, look, he doesn't have a choice, right? You've got to go out there, and that's the approach. You're professional football players, and whether you're mathematically in it or not, you're expected to perform in your duties, in your job. And Doug Peterson needs to get this team ready to play every single week, and he needs to develop his young players. Or, he's got a hand in that. And, the quarterback being at the top of the list, but Brian Thomas Jr., Tank Bigsby, there are a lot of young guys, Walker Little, who just this morning we got news signed a contract extension with the Jacksonville Jaguars. These players need to play and develop kind of a winning mindset. They have won a lot of games over the last 2 previous seasons, but this year is getting out of control, Brian. They need to put the brakes on.
Big news this week. The quarterback would be back, as you mentioned off the top of the show. And it's important for the development of guys like Thomas and Walker Little to have the quarterback out there, to have a functional offense where they can try to work on getting better every single game. Trevor was asked about playing, right? The shoulder, people wondered about surgery. He said there's plenty for him to play. Not just beyond, or not just development, but beyond that. There's 6 games left to play, and his focus is on them.
We got 6 weeks. That's what we're guaranteed. Beyond that, who knows what can happen. You see some crazy things, so we don't feel like we're necessarily out of anything. It's definitely a challenge. It's an uphill battle, but that's what we got in front of us. It's a situation we put ourselves in, and 4 division games, that also adds a wrinkle to a lot can happen at the end of the season. So we just have to take it 1 week at a time, though, and this is a big one. Houston, a team that we haven't beat here at home in a long time, a team that beat us earlier in the season in a game that we felt like we had every opportunity to win and came out shorthanded on that one. So there's a lot of motivation for us. We just want to go play our best football Sunday and find a way to win, and then we'll move on after that. But 100%, 4 out of 6 division games, that's really big for our team. And
well, look, it is, obviously, and it is a good measuring stick, and it's ironic, the Jags may end up falling short in the AFC South, but have a really sterling division record when it's all said and done, and we're going to look back and say, how could they not take advantage in this of all years when it's possible a sub-500 record could win the division this year?
When you look just objectively at it, the Jaguars have lost 6 games in the final 2 minutes by 5 points or less. If they had just found a way to win 3 of those, you'd be 5-6 right now. I'm sure you've talked about this on your show all week. You'd be right there at 9, 10 in the rankings with 6 games left to play, talking about making a realistic run, not just at the division title if you could get that, but you'd be in the running for a wild card, which this team is not with 9 losses.
Right, but that's not where they find themselves.
No.
And I hear Trevor Lawrence say, hey, there's still a lot to play for. Anything can happen. Well, it can only happen if you win today.
Right.
You lose today, you're mathematically out of it. And then that anything that can happen, well, a lot of things can happen in the course of a football game, but in terms of this team climbing the standings, it will be, I'm not saying meaningless, but there's no end game to get to the postseason if you don't get it done today.
I hope that was his message in the locker room to his team. He's been gone for a month now. We know what he means to this team. If you wondered, if you thought Mac Jones was going to make a run and, spark things and get it going, we now know that's not the case. He's not the same quarterback as Trevor Lawrence. So Trevor walks back into the locker room with the opportunity to prove something, right? To his teammates, to the fan base, to himself, that he is the absolute unquestioned leader of this team.
Look, I don't think there is any question in my mind who the leader of this football team is. But, yeah, I do think it sends a message when you go out there and you're injured and you're like, look, they could say what they want about being alive. I think everyone rationally knows it's going to take a sports miracle for them to go on the kind of run that it's going to take. But what kind of message does it send if, all right, the going's tough, it looks like, the playoffs are out of reach. You guys go out there. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to rehab this shoulder. Right. Look, I think this is it for everyone who questioned Trevor Lawrence's toughness, and plenty have. Trust me.
They've forgotten last season, obviously.
Apparently they've forgotten a lot, but this is a guy that wants to be out there. This is his life. This is what he's been doing most of his life, and I can't imagine a guy that wouldn't have that mindset.
And don't underestimate the message it would send if he did wrap up in bubble wrap and go sit on the shelf the rest of the way. There's a lot of guys in that locker room who are playing through injury. A lot of guys who could say, hey, what about me, right? How about putting me on the shelf and making sure I'm 100% for next season? So having your quarterback in the locker room is a really big flag planted right in the middle of the locker room. We're here to play.
That's provided that he is in an environment where he's no more likely to put himself back with injury than he would typically be, right?
And we're told that that's the case.
And that exactly. And as long as that remains the case, and Trevor Lawrence said it this week, it's going to be on a week-by-week basis. We'll see what the circumstances are. We'll see how the shoulder is, how it's reacting. So this could change at any time. But today, even though it's a sliver of mathematics that keep him alive, he's signaling that if we've got a chance, I'm going to be out there leading you.
A guy who didn't play 2 weeks ago in Detroit, Tank Bigsby, the ankle injury, is back on the field today. And Doug Peterson talked about the running game and what that brings to the table over this final 6-game stretch.
That's something that we have to do better as an offense. We have to run the ball better, and it's not just the running backs. It's all 11, right? It's the quarterback putting us in the right run if we have run checks. It's obviously the offensive line, the tight ends, and we know the running back. So that's an area that we've got to improve. But having 2 healthy running backs right now definitely helps that. Travis could definitely be explosive and get you some tough yards when needed. And we've seen what Tank has done, early in the season and all of that. So it's good to get them both, out there and get them both back in the offense.
Got to have success on early downs to keep it going, right? Put yourself in favorable down and distance, and you got to convert third downs. Brian, they just haven't enough raw plays to really lean into the running game. Today is the kind of day you'd like to see Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby have more than 30 touches between them, right? Maybe that many carries, and then whatever they get in the passing game as well. And you want to take pressure off your quarterback who's less than 100% physically? That's a great way to do it.
Well, the running game was a big topic, and really, the quarterback is the big story on offense, but the running game might be the story today against the Texans, and Press Taylor went to that card as well.
Playing second long, third and long, I think that's hard on a lot of people. If that's what you're doing, that's hard on your line. You don't want to be in drop back scenarios against the defensive lines across the league these days. So it makes things tougher from that standpoint. But it obviously, running the ball does a lot of good for our entire team, I think, of us being able to stay on the field. But whatever we do, run, pass, screen, movement, we want to be efficient. I mean, that's the number one goal. So whether it's running for 4 yards on first down, we'll take that. We'd love to be able to do that consistently. If we throw it, we need to put it in play. We need to do a good job protection. We need to do a good job being where we're supposed to be, catching the ball, advancing forward. So it's not necessarily just the run game. I mean, there's a lot of things that our first and second down efficiency needs to be better.
Amen. They have got to find a way to get to second down and 4, right?
Absolutely.
On a
Second
regular
and 5,
basis. Right.
Even. Yeah.
And they
Keep them
haven't.
guessing.
Because when was the last time you remember this offense being efficient?
Oh, it's been a while.
The Colts game?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Early October. So 2 months.
Right. And look, even if you are setting up those 2nd and 5s, 2nd and 4s, you got to convert those 3rd and 1s. And they haven't always done that this year. Again, those are the drive extenders. Get a new set of downs. You can't be, putting Doug Peterson in the position to have to go for it on 4th down to convert drives in that area between the 45-yard line. So we'll see with a extra week of rest. If those fresh legs on the offensive line could punch some holes out.
Well, and having a power back like Bigsby certainly gives you more of a chance. Etienne, for all of his great athleticism, is not a guy on 3rd down and 1 that I don't think you can count on to get that hard-fought yard.
I think the track record shows that. And that's not a knock. He's just a different type of running
You bet.
back.
Right. All right, let's talk about the defense, which has not been very good. Although, in that stretch where they lost to the Packers, the Eagles, and the Vikings, they did just enough, found a way to make a play to give the offense a chance to win. It wasn't good enough. They didn't obviously win any of those games. That was kind of a bend but don't break extravaganza in that stretch. That was not the case in Detroit.
Oh, they snapped.
It was broken all the way. So I asked Ryan Nielsen this week, a guy who wears a tack on his hat is never going to say bend but don't break is okay. However, he did say that getting back to that would give them a foothold, something that they think that they could contribute.
You'll see a little bit different wrinkle. Look, we can't change everything, and we are who we are. But there'll be a few different wrinkles. We're at the part of the season, guys have done a good job with the volume and things like that, but moving some guys around and bringing some guys here, pressuring a little bit here, playing some more coverage in these, you self-scout, where are we pressuring a lot? Where are we playing coverage and things like that? And so I think that'll be the biggest change. And then staying positive with the guys is really important because, like we've gone through stretches where we have played some pretty good defensive football here, and it's just putting it all together. That's where we're at.
They got 6 weeks to put it together.
Yeah, look, I think one change I'd like to see is let your best players play. Just let them play. All right, Foye Oluokun has proved throughout his career he doesn't need to come off the field, and he could play at a high level. I don't think you need to see Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker off the field at the same time. All right, I'd like to see those guys at end with Eric Armstead in the middle. Let's do that as a more common occurrence. I mean, there are plenty of things that they could do differently. But, coming off that loss to Detroit, Brian, everywhere you look, that's almost one you just have to burn the film.
Yep.
Over 645 yards allowed in that game. There's nothing you can look at that you can point to and say, this was effective, this was good. You've got to go just kind of rewind the clock back a couple of weeks.
Doug Peterson said this week they made a lot of changes, internal changes. He wouldn't elaborate. We'll find out. But on that defensive side, change certainly is something that needed to happen. We'll find out how Ryan Nielsen attacks it today. He gave us a little tease right there. Well, coming up on the coming up on the Publix Tailgate show.
It was a very rough test drive. There were things, the things I liked. I mean, it was truly awesome to take the kids to school every day.
He's back. Tyler Shatley is back in the locker room, and we'll hear from him in this week's Baptist Health Player Interview. But next, CBS Sports senior writer Pete Prisco's perspective. You're listening to the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Tackle your marketing needs with Kessler Creative. Providing direct mail services for more than a decade, Kessler has a wide range of services from small mailers to large banners and signs. Draft Kessler as your first pick to receive the best targeted mail list. Elevate your business and be on the winning team with Kessler Creative. Kessler Creative, results-driven marketing and proud partner of your Jacksonville Jaguars.
Jags fans, are you ready to upgrade your living space? Enter for a chance to win the ultimate furniture giveaway. You could enhance your home with a new sectional, queen mattress, or queen bedroom set, courtesy of Furniture Source. One lucky fan will receive new furniture after every Jaguars home game this season. Don't miss out. Enter today by visiting jaguars.com/sweepstakes. Jaguars.com/sweepstakes. Selections will vary by game.
The kick is up. It's good!
Score winning sub deals this Jaguar season at Firehouse Subs. Receive 50% off on any sub when the Jaguars kick a field goal of 40 yards or more. It's a bold deal for the bold city. Download the Firehouse Subs app for offer details. Redeemable only at participating Jacksonville and Orlando area restaurants. Only available in the Firehouse Subs app.
Hey fans, it's Tyson Campbell, cornerback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. This season, your game day is getting even tastier with Al's Pizza in the stadium. And every time we get a pick, you'll score. If the Jaguars get one interception, you'll enjoy buy one, get one free pizza at any Al's Pizza location Monday through Thursday after the home game. 2 interceptions, a free dessert. And 3 interceptions, that's a free appetizer. Just tell them you want the Jags pick. Up your game and get your Al's Pizza at the game or any of their locations.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Paid for by FDOT.
Rolling along in the Publix Tailgate Show on a December morning. It's cool, it's chilly, it feels like playoff weather, and it's kind of a playoff game for the Jags in a sense. Lose today, and you're mathematically eliminated.
Yeah, must win.
Win today, and you can still talk about if this, then that, even at 2-9. So, Merry Christmas.
That's a big one. And look, the Texans are off next week.
Yeah.
Right? So
Gain a little
you
ground,
win your next
right?
couple, and you will still be in it mathematically.
Somewhere someone is listening, and they're yelling at the radio.
Oh, I know they
right.
are, but that's look.
But
we're
that's
not
what's
saying
possible.
We're believing that this is likely to happen.
Right. It's what's possible, and on a Sunday morning, as pretty as it is outside. Let's hope. Let's have a little hope here today. All right, Jaguars and Texans kick off at 1 o'clock. The little bit of news that we've got for you today is tackle Walker Little has agreed to a 3-year extension with the Jaguars. It's out there on Pro Football Talk as a 3-year deal, $45 million, $26 million guaranteed. So do with that what you will. And what I want is to hear your conversation with Pete Prisco.
Well, yeah, Pete and I spoke in anticipation of this game, and obviously coming off the bye week, and you want to put that disaster of a game against Detroit in the rear view as quickly as possible. I asked Pete, starting out, how much of a reset can you get just from having 1 week off?
Well, I think it probably did come in as good time. I mean, you're reeling and you need time away. And, Doug Peterson made a point of saying this team was beat up and needed rest. And if that's the case, then it came at a really good week. But, again, when you're a team that's, having all kinds of problems in both sides of the ball, it does a bye at any week come at a good time. So I think from the rest standpoint, maybe from where you are as a football team, it doesn't really matter.
All right, let's do this. Let's try to look on the bright side of things, and there have been some positives for the Jaguars this year. So let's start with offense. Give me a player that so far has exceeded your expectations, but also give me a young player that maybe you'd like to see play a little bit more down the stretch of this season.
Well, Brian Thomas is, I thought he would be a good player. I didn't think he'd be as good as he is right away, particularly when you watched him in training camp. There was some issues there in training camp, but boy, he's going to be a special receiver in this league. And you're seeing more and more of it. I mean, at times they don't even throw him the football, which is astounding to me. I'd get him the ball as much as possible. So he would be that guy, a guy you want to see more of. Boy, that's a good question. Because you look at that group, there's not a lot of young players. Maybe Parker Washington, and then you have to, see what he can do with the chance and opportunities, and then you got to make a decision on Christian Kirk going forward. If Parker Washington shows you he can be a guy who could be counted on to be a starter. So those are probably the two on the offensive side of the ball.
All right, what are your thoughts on what you've seen from Tank Bigsby so far this year, and how would you like to see the running backs, Etienne and Bigsby, utilized down the stretch?
I think Bigsby has given him a nice pop. I mean, he's been tough. He's been physical. He's run the ball much better. He isn't bouncing things like he did a year ago. He's putting his head down and going, which I think he had to do. As far as going forward, look, you played a team in the Lions that have a 1-2 punch. And I'm not saying Etienne is Gibbs, but you can model it after something like that and try and get Etienne in those air-type spaces and get him the ball in the passing game. And when you need the power runs, you get him the Bigsby like they do with David Montgomery. So I think that's kind of what they should do going forward.
All right, let's turn it around to the defense now. Same drill here, Pete. Somebody who has exceeded your expectations to this point in the season and someone you'd like to see more of.
Well, I think Ventrell Miller's exceeded everybody's expectations. I think him being on the field in certain situations, I think he's one of those guys that can bring a thump to the run game. He's still in work in progress when it comes to being able to cover, and sit down in zones and react to that. But that'll come as he gets more and more playing time. But as far as bringing a violence and bringing an ability to go, detect the run, decipher the run, and go attack the run, I think that's important for them. So I think from that standpoint, it's Ventrell Miller. And at some point, the guy that needs to play is Mason Smith. And I know he's been banged up a little bit, and early in the season he was healthy scratch. But look, you use the second-round pick on the guy. Get him on the field. Find a way down the stretch to get him some reps, get him some opportunities. You obviously thought highly enough of him to use that high pick on him. Get him on the field and let him play.
All right, Pete, we often focus so much on offense and defense, but let's give a minute here to Heath Farwell and the job that he's done. And it feels to me like the specialists have been outstanding. Coverage and return units have been good for the Jaguars. Special teams has not been a negative at all, it seems like, this year for the Jacksonville.
No, it has not been. In fact, it's been one of the only positives that team has. I mean, everybody has contributed in a big way. They've gotten kickoff return for touchdown. You also saw that the punter's been outstanding. Logan Cook's been fantastic. The kicking game has been really good. So, yeah, if you want to look at the one true bright spot for the Jacksonville Jaguars this year, it has to be the special teams and what Heath Farwell's done with them.
All right, looking at today's matchup, the Houston Texans come in with a lot of protection issues. That's been a lot of what's led to 3 losses in the last 4 games. C.J. Stroud has been under siege. Do you think the Jaguars are positioned well enough to take advantage of that?
You know, you mentioned C.J. Stroud, and he's sped up. You know, in large part because that offensive line has been bad, and they haven't been able to protect him, and he hasn't been the same guy this year. And I think this is one of those games where you got to get pressure in the middle. They haven't done a great job of that. The ends have done solid jobs getting pressure, but you need more in the middle, and this might be the chance to do that. Now, having said that, their secondaries have given up a lot of big plays, and we know when C.J. Stroud gets cooking, that can be a problem. So I do think he's going to bounce back. There's been a lot of focus on him this week and a lot of focus on that offense. I think he plays well, and I think the Texans win the football game.
C.J. Stroud had his biggest game of the season against Jacksonville the first time around, 345 yards. And this has been a common theme, Brian. There have been teams with beat-up offensive lines that other teams are sacking on a regular basis that the Jaguars are just not getting home against. I think that's one of the keys to today's game.
They have got to get pressure up the middle, right? You've seen 41 and 44 coming after the quarterback, but the quarterback can step up and escape because there's nothing coming from the middle. Devon Hamilton, who did not play very well in Detroit, has got to play a better ball game this week. Mason Smith is supposed to be active today. That's a second-round pick. He's a big, strong guy who was really good during training camp and has disappeared since. They've got to get something from him. They've got to find a way to make this offensive line from the Texans, which has not played great football over the last couple of weeks, hence they've lost 3 of 4. They got to find a way to make him pay, and it's got to come from some of the guys in the middle. At least that's what I keep hearing, talking to players and coaches. They've got to get an internal pass rush on him. Otherwise, he stands back there, and Nico Collins, 12 catches for 151 yards is what he did to this team in September.
Right.
You
Tank
can't afford
Dell
that
is
today.
quite capable of burning you, too.
You bet. They've got to play much, much better in the middle of that defensive line to impact the quarterback. All right, it's time to move on to our player interview presented by the Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute. They're the official sports medicine provider of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And Tyler Shatley is back in the Jaguars locker room after 3 months away. Look, he'd been a staple with the Jaguars for more than a decade. Even though he wasn't a starter, he was one of the most beloved players in that locker room. He's got great perspective. And he, I found out talking to him this week, like most of us, doesn't know what to make of this team and its disastrous season. But he does know that he is glad to be back after a little test drive with retirement.
Honestly, man, just what a blessing, to be able to finish how I wanted to. It was good to get to be home with the family, and it was nice because it was long enough to really realize, like, oh, this is really what's going to feel like when it's done. And this is really because I think during OTAs, missed the first week and I re-signed, and that wasn't long enough to really miss it, And then coming back yesterday, I was like, truly just had a smile on my face when I came in here. It was just cool to see everybody, see all the people that, the guys I've been doing life with for the last 10 years, staff people. It's been so cool to see everybody.
You feel like you got a test drive on what it's going to be like, and what did you like about it, and what maybe drove you crazy?
Yeah, a very rough test drive. People ask that, and I was like, it's not the same, because that was still in my mind. Like, I'm still trying to come back. I'm still trying to, I'm still walking around at 305 pounds, and now when somebody's like, "Oh, you're really big," I'm just like, "Yeah." Need to lose some weight. It's not like, well, actually, I play football. That's why I need to be big, So, I'd say yes. Like, it was a very rough test drive. There were things, the things I liked. It was truly like awesome to take the kids to school every day, and like to see that side of like just get to see them do the little things, like all the stuff at school. Get to pick them up from school, man. Like, I got to coach my son's flag football team. Like, that was truly like. That was probably the most joy I've felt in a while, is getting to see them and getting to be out there with him and like experience that with him, and coach the way that like those kids, the way that like they're supposed to, like just encouraging them, like, loving them, because that's what I told some of the parents too. I was like, they're going to have the rest of their life. Coaches will scream at them and make them hate the game, but like they're 7 and they need to enjoy it. And like I got to do that, and that was so much fun. The thing the thing that was hard was still being so close with all the guys here, but feeling so far away, just feeling out of the loop in a way. And I still hung out with some of the guys, still saw them, but it's just that thing of like you're telling a story, right? And they're laughing about something. Like, oh, you remember that? Oh, yeah. And I'm like, oh, what happened? It was funnier when it happened the first time. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, no, sick. Like,
was it tough for you to see him struggle? Because I mean, you were still such a part of this team. You know all these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Tough to see him struggle because I know I'm talking to them. I know how hard they're working. I mean, obviously here in camp, and I know like just the hours that they put in the blood, sweat, and tears, and to see them struggling, you hate that, and I hated that for them, and it's just hard to watch.
6 games left, 4 in the division. Is there a fight to this team? Have you been able to get a sense of where they are mentally and what it's going to take to get started on Sunday?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's still a lot of fight in the team. Coming off a bye week, that's huge. I think a lot of guys kind of got a breath of fresh air. And sometimes the bye week can kind of help just kind of clear your mind for a second and really focus on your why. Like, why are we really doing this? And then maybe kind of come back invigorated and be like, all right, hey, it's 6 weeks. Like you said, it's 6 weeks. Let's just put the hammer down. Let's go and see where it shakes out.
How did your family make out in North Carolina? You were gone when Helene hit up there, and I know that Western North Carolina's home. What was that experience like, and how's your family?
My family was good. I mean, truly, like I felt like it was all around them. Things were going on. Everybody lost power. I know my brother-in-law's his business, the place where he works, is like, when I say completely underwater, like, I mean, it was like completely underwater. So that was tough. Like, my family lost power, but it was nothing compared to some of the devastation that was in some of the other places. And I think my parents were like the only ones that they lost power for like right around a week or so, a little bit longer. But brother and sister, they were good. They were only out for a couple of days, and my grandma, she was out for a couple of days. But other than that, everybody was safe. No real property damage. So truly, like, that was a blessing.
Final thought then, is it going to be just like normal walking out of that tunnel on Sunday, or do you suppose it'll feel a little different? Maybe you'll cherish it a little bit more because you know that you're closer to the end.
Yeah, I definitely think I'll cherish it more. Just knowing, like I said, I knew there was a possibility. I always knew that it could end at any moment. But for 10 years, I'd kind of evaded it, and then being home for a while really kind of shifted my perspective. Like, no, this could really be done any moment, and you gotta enjoy the everyday, the grind of it, because that's at the end of it, that's really all you have left. That's the only stuff that matters.
Story, right? I mean, who knows whether he'll be active or play at all in the next 6 weeks. But he's a guy who most people who are listening and who have watched the Jaguars over the last decade have come to realize is one of the really good guys to have worn teal and black.
Right. We sometimes just think these guys are just their performance on the field. They are people, and Tyler Shatley's a good one. This is his franchise, right? And we know that this is it for him, and for him to come back to even have a chance to be around the team and maybe get to play some last football games to round out his career. Good for him.
Feel-good story on a beautiful morning, and we'll see if the Jaguars can kick off the final 6 weeks of their season by letting everyone leave the stadium feeling good today. Coming up in 15 minutes, Hall of Famer Tony Boselli and Jeff Lageman join us from the booth. But up next,
Cam comes in here, and he's just been lights out. He's been a killer. He waits for those special moments.
One phase of the Jaguars has been good this season, and special teams coordinator Heath Farwell joins us coming up at 1 o'clock from Jacksonville. This is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub-platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Sims Crane and Equipment is the Southeast premier crane rental company since 1959, serving Florida, Georgia, and Alabama with cranes up to 800 ton for all of your heavy lifting needs. Sims Crane is the Tadano rough terrain crane dealer for the state of Florida. Inspired by the past, committed to the future. Choose Sims Crane and Equipment for all of your heavy lifting needs. Sims Crane is a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Champions are built from the support and encouragement they get from the team around them. No one knows that better than Jacksonville Jaguars wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr.
As one of the nation's largest pediatric health systems, Nemours Children's Health gives hope to future champions every day to go well beyond their limits. Together, we can redefine children's health. We are Nemours Children's Health.
Touchdown at Jaguars away games when you fly nonstop from Jacksonville International Airport. Join the Jaguars in Miami and Houston. Watch them win in Philly, Detroit, Nashville, and Las Vegas. All the other Jaguars games are just one short connection away. And if airport parking has you stressed, be sure to visit the Jax Airport website before traveling to the terminal. On it, you'll find information about the status of on-airport parking in real time. See if your favorite areas are available or if you need to call an audible. Visit flyjax.com for more information.
Frank Frangie here. When you want barbecue in Jacksonville, you want Bono's Pit Barbecue. You can find Bono's locations all around town and on game day at EverBank Stadium because Bono's is the official barbecue of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Over 70 years of authentic Southern Pit Barbecue. We are the local barbecue joint in BBQval for generations of people in Jacksonville. Go to bonosbarbecue.com to learn more or call 904-880-8310 today. And remember, if you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
The creamiest, dreamiest soft ice cream you get from Mr. Softy. For a refreshing delight supreme, look for Mr. Softy. The milkshakes and the sundaes and the cones are such a treat. Look out for the ice cream stand, enjoy it from your seat. The creamiest, dreamiest soft ice cream you get from Mr. Softy. For a refreshing delight supreme, look for Mr. Softy. S-O-F-T-E-E, Mr. Softy.
Welcome back to the Publix Tailgate Show. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. Brian and Mike with you from the Hyundai Studios inside the Miller Electric Center in Jacksonville. The Texans and Jaguars kick off at 1 o'clock today here at EverBank Field. And today's game is presented by the University of Florida Health, the proud healthcare partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And it's time for our weekly commentary from Rick Ballou.
The dust has settled after many, myself included, expected changes after the 52-6 blowout loss to Detroit a couple of Sundays ago. According to Doug Peterson, there have been some changes which happened in-house. Will any of them be noticeable today, including the story which just won't go away, whether or not Peterson will actually call his own offensive plays? Communication has always been a problem during the Peterson tenure, and it really reared its ugly head this past week. Peterson went out and said that the conversation about whether or not Trevor Lawrence would have surgery on his non-throwing shoulder has never even been mentioned. Lawrence said the exact opposite, telling us that everything is still on the table, including surgery. We'll find out. Laugh or cry. I'll leave that to you. Still, how does that happen? Despite the mess, the Jags have a real shot at pulling off the upset today. Houston has struggled, and the pressure is growing for second-year quarterback C.J. Stroud. They're also limping into this game, and they desperately need the bye, which will happen after this contest. They've won 5 in a row right here in Duval. The fans and the media, they're certainly aware of it. The players, not so much. This is the Jaguars' toughest game remaining. They pulled this one off. Peterson teams have won 5 and 6 in a row, respectively, the last 2 years. Could the Jags put a streak together once again?
All right, you can catch more with Rick on Into the Night with Rick Ballou, weeknights from 6 to 8 on 1010 XL. Well, you would probably struggle to find anything you could describe as good from this Jaguar season, let alone great. But special teams have bordered on being great. Longtime NFL writer Rick Gosselin has a well-regarded index of special teams performance, and as of this moment, the Jaguars are highly ranked in those rankings. Special teams coordinator Heath Farwell explains what's worked so far this season.
Yeah, guys have been playing unbelievable. It starts with our 3 specialists. Ross has done a fantastic job just kind of setting the table. Logan not only holding, but his punts have been spectacular. And then, of course, the rookie, Cam, comes in here, and he's just been lights out. He's been a killer. He waits for those special moments. He's not scared of anything. I joke around. He's just a killer. He has no. He's just so confident. He looks for those kicks. He can't wait for those kicks. There's not a line that he's not scared of as far as distance. And so he's been fantastic. And then you throw in some of the other guys. Our gunners outside, Tim Jones, Daniel Thomas have played out, spectacular. Had some really good plays covering, not only making tackles but forcing fair catches. Some of those punts that Logan's, launching down the field, 55, 60 yards. Those are the guys covering, and they care so much about it. The standard is so high with those guys, and it's not something that my assistant and I are doing. It's those guys. Like I said, I respect them. I love them to death because they play the game the way it should be played. Every single down, every single game. They don't care what the score is, what our record is, what it is. It means a lot to them, and that's all you can ask for.
Let's go back to Cam for a minute. I saw him punt a ball on the practice field and thought, did Logan get shorter? Because it looked like a Logan Cook punt. The guy is insanely talented, it seems, with a leg. He must have a bionic hip flexor.
He loves doing that. I think he's trying to compete with Logan. I think he loves teasing Logan like he could do it. But he is talented. He can definitely do it. And it's funny. I'm super fortunate. He can do the punting just like his kickings, and Logan's can kick field goals about as good as Cam does on field goals. So they're both super talented. Some of the better specialists in the league. And to get an opportunity to work with them every single day, you just see how talented they are and how driven they are, what it means to be great, what the time they put in. Cam puts in more time than I've seen, most kickers do. And, he's a rookie. You kind of forget that he doesn't act like a rookie. He's a vet that understands that he cares so much about being a pro, and his expectations are so high on how he's going to kick every single day. That's how he works at it.
And he learns from a guy like Logan Cook. I remember that insane punt that bounced at the 12 against the Packers and went out right at the pylon. I asked him, I said, how often do you kick that? He said, every day in practice. The work ethic that Cam can observe from Logan, that's got to be an epic thing for a coach to be able to lean on.
Yeah, that's like I said, he walked into a good situation with a great crew to kind of work with him. And I kind of challenged those guys, Ross and Logan, right away when we took on the rookie. Hey, it's you guys' project. It's your little baby. You guys kind of got to mold them how you want them. And they are. They're hard on him. They tease him. They mess with him. But he's like a little brother. So they're teaching him everything they've learned over the years. And it's a special group. You'd love to keep this group together a long time because they are really, really good together. And they just help each other so much. I mean, those snaps that Ross is doing, the holds, I watch across the league, and you don't always get perfect holds like you do, here. And like I said, you don't want to take those for granted because they are great holds and really sets the table for Cam.
When was the last time there was a substantive punt return against you? I can't recall it. Logan's been that good, but your coverage units have been that good. And field position, for a team where things haven't gone well, field position has been something you guys have been able to count on.
Yeah, these guys have been number one in punt net, and it's super important. It starts with a good location of the punt, gunner play down the field, and then covering the field. Those guys do a great job of understanding leverage and then effort. That's I always say it doesn't always have to be the cleanest schematically, but when you play with great effort and you care about it and it's important to you, that's what special teams are about. So that's a big emphasis in the program, and that's what they do.
You have a team that doesn't have a wide margin for error. They're not doing anything well enough on offense or defense to be able to really lean in that direction. The margin for error comes from special teams. If Logan Cook can pin the opponent deep, if he can put C.J. Stroud on his 5-yard line 2 or 3 drives today, you figure the other team gets 11 drives on average. If he's starting inside his 5, that's a huge advantage. If you've got a kicker that you can count on once you cross midfield, that's a huge advantage as well. It's the third leg of the tripod, right? But special teams could be a big factor today if the Jaguars are going to find a way to win.
Yeah, look, the only issue with Cam Little is he hasn't had as many opportunities as we'd like, right? And you always want to score touchdowns more than field goals, but I'll take field goals as opposed to punts or turning it over on downs, obviously. But no, he looks pretty good right now with his charges all performing at a high level.
And his coverage teams have been good. There are a lot of young players who are doing an excellent job running down the field and making sure there aren't big returns against them. Well, if you're looking for the MVP of the truck game, you better check out the 2024 Ford F-150. It's loaded with impressive capability and game-changing technology. You can dominate work, play, and everything in between. Test drive an F-150 at your local Ford dealer, a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Well, coming up at 11 o'clock, it's hour 2 of the Publix Tailgate Show. But when we return, Jeff Lageman and Hall of Famer Tony Baselli join us from the booth. The Texans and Jaguars are on deck in Week 11, and you're listening to the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub-platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
It's storm season, and JEA is committed to keeping you informed. In the event of a storm, we'll text and email you about the status of your services. We use Facebook and Twitter to post real-time updates. Our live outage map on JEA.com lets you track restoration progress. And as crews work to restore services, our storm outreach team will be in local neighborhoods to answer your questions. Because as your community utility, JEA is here to keep you safe and connected. Your community, your utility.
Hey Jags fans, Extreme isn't always about heat, it's about flavor. And 505 knows flavor. So wake up those sleepy taste buds with 505's new lineup of premium craft salsa. Powered by the bud-kicking boldness of fire-roasted Hatch Valley chilies, 505 salsas are more than enough to bulk up any simple spread. Ignite your sense of boldness with 505's all-new assortment of fiercely fiery flavors featuring 505's new black bean and corn craft salsa. And of course, 505's award-winning flagship flavor, Southwestern style.
Flight by Yingling is the next generation of light beer. For those who don't follow trends, but craft them. Flight by Yingling is 12 ounces of uncompromised refreshment from America's oldest brewery. With only 2.6 grams of carbs and 95 calories, this is premium refreshment 6 generations in the making. Don't just raise a glass, raise the bar. Flight by Yingling. Available wherever beer is sold. DG Yingling and Son Incorporated, Pottsville, Pennsylvania. Please enjoy responsibly.
Our commitment isn't just seen throughout the community. It's celebrated by our patients. Our achievements aren't just found in our labs. They are advancing the way we care for you. Our comforting approach and advocacy aren't just found bedside. They are inspiring the next generation of caregivers. UF Health Jacksonville. Our care never quits. See how at ufhealthjacks.org/neverquit.
Calling all junior fire chiefs. Parents, register for your child to win the ultimate Jaguars game day experience. Sponsored by Firehouse Subs. Cheering on the Jags from the Firehouse Subs fire truck at EverBank Stadium. Flashing the fire truck lights when the Jags score. As honorary junior fire chief of the game, your child will receive a Firehouse Subs gift, and the whole family will receive 4 tickets and a parking pass to a home game this season. Visit Jaguars.com/sweepstakes to enter to win today. See website for terms and conditions.
And welcome back. One more segment in the first hour of the Publix Tailgate Show. Brian Sexton, Mike Dempsey from the Hyundai Studios. Kickoff comes your way at 1 o'clock, Texans and Jaguars. And today's game is presented by University of Florida Health, the proud healthcare partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Time now for the first rounds on us.
New York Jets, first-round choice. Jeff Lageman.
Jacksonville Jaguars have selected tackle Southern California, Tony Baselli.
And First Rounds on Us is presented by Ancient City Brewing. Taste history, make history. And Jeff and Tony join us from the broadcast booth. Fellas, how are you?
Morning. Good morning, Brian. How you doing?
I'm good. Are you energized by the crisp, cool fall air?
Actually, I'm feeling a little overweight right now, Brian.
Well, I wasn't going there. Honestly,
it's been a good
Jeff,
week.
I was going to leave the turkey in the past, but
I just can't turn myself away from the pecan pie and the sweet potato pie. I just don't have enough willpower.
You say pecan, I say pecan. It's all good. Hey, guys.
I'll eat both.
Yeah, no, I'm fully aware of that. Hey, so we heard about changes. Doug Peterson would elaborate on internal changes. He wanted to keep those in-house. But let's just deal with the defense and start with you, Jeff. The defense has been historically bad. They've got 6 games remaining. What can they do today against the Texans? and C.J. Stroud and Nico Collins, who burned them for 151 yards on 12 catches in September. What can this defense do differently today to affect the outcome?
Well, number one, you better do a better job of stopping the run than you've done in the last 3 games, where you've allowed 602 yards rushing. And Joe Mixon is playing this time, which he did not play against the Jaguars the first time around. Look, the Texans' offensive line is kind of struggling up into the middle. And part of the reason why they're struggling is they've kind of mixed and matched personnel, and that's affected their running game a little bit because Joe Mixon only had, I think, 22 yards rushing against the Titans last week. And then that impacts the ability of C.J. Stroud. And look, if Joe Mixon gets rolling today, Brian and Mike and Tony, it's going to be near impossible to stop the big playability of Nico Collins. And here's a little nugget for you. The Texans' offense, 3rd in the National Football League in most explosive plays, okay? They're 1st in the most explosive passing play category. The Jaguars' defense, as we know, have struggled mightily at stopping the explosive plays to the point that they are the 2nd worst in the National Football League. So if you don't stop Joe Mixon today, it's going to be a long day.
Yeah, and I think, picking up on the defensive side, Jeff's right. You got to win on first down, so that's stopping Joe Mixon so you can get in some third and long situations where you can let your pass rushers go. But the question is, can you get enough pressure on C.J. Stroud? Because he is struggling right now. His feet are off. He's missing stuff. He's been hurried. But that's because people have been able to pressure him. And so I think a big part of changing the narrative or changing the changes that I hope to see is they find a way to manufacture pressure. Because if you do that, recent history will tell you that C.J. Stroud's going to rush everything and you're going to get your chance to get your hands on a couple balls.
Tony, what do they do to try to manufacture that? Because the Jags have played teams that have been going through, at times, slumps, let's call it, on the offensive line, guys missing, giving up a lot of sacks, and they haven't been able to take advantage. How can that be different today?
Mike, I think you got to blitz more than they have been because I don't think just rushing 4 because our interior rush is not that strong. We don't get enough push that helps those outside pass rushers get home. And so I think you got to blitz more. And then the second thing is I'd play Eric Armstead predominantly at 3 technique.
Yeah, move him inside.
I would just keep him at 3 technique. I don't think he's effective as a pass rusher from the edge. He is still their best 3 technique pass rusher. So I'd put him inside, and that's where all his reps would get come from, if it was my say.
Yeah, and you also got to look at playing Monteric Brown a little bit more. The Detroit game, I think, was kind of a glaring example that Ronald Darby's become a little bit of a target. And, look, the Lions kind of went after him a little bit. And so maybe Monteric Brown needs to get more snaps at corner. And, you had some mental breakdowns in coverage on the running backs, which at the linebacker position there's been some questions, about the eye discipline with Devin Lloyd. Does Ventrell Miller need to get some more snaps in there? So there's some things you can do. But, Doug was very coy this week about what the changes would be.
Right.
And are we going to be able to tell some of the changes? Maybe, maybe not.
Well, guys, one thing that's not going to change apparently, at least in the short term, is the left tackle position. Right before we came on the air this morning, got reports that the Jags have agreed to a contract extension with Walker Little, $45 million, 26 guaranteed over the next 3 years. What's your reaction?
One, congratulations. Happy for Walker Little. I think it is good when you can draft a guy and you can re-sign him. I think my biggest question, Mike, is what was the hurry? Yeah, I thought this last 6 weeks was going to be really his opportunity to prove out that he's the starting left tackle. Because you got to remember, if you look at the history of him being on this franchise, he's never won the job. They gave him an opportunity 2 years ago with Juwan Taylor to beat him out at right tackle. Juwan won that job. When Cam was out, he was the left tackle. As soon as Cam came back, Cam was back at left tackle. So he's never taken the job and won it in camp or at any point. And so that's why I was a little bit I'm less against it because I think Walker Little, I still think he can be a starting caliber offensive tackle. And, 15 a year and 26 guaranteed, that's kind of, maybe just above middle of the road for a starting caliber left tackle in this league today. But I just don't understand the timing of it more than anything because I think you had an opportunity to let him go improve over this 6-week period that he's the guy that you want to put in at left tackle for the future.
Yeah, I'd love to know what they're thinking just as far as like the future, because we don't know that, as far as, okay, you got Anton Harrison who played left tackle and was a first-round pick and kind of I thought that maybe he would be the future left tackle, or do they view him as the future left tackle? Is Walker Little going to be right tackle? I don't know the answer to that. And one thing that I do know is that Walker Little hasn't started an entire season yet. But the reality is a lot of times in this league, contracts and kind of forecasting is based on a lot of faith, and the ability to stay healthy has not really been there for Walker Little. But this year, his ability to finish has impressed me. His level of play has been better than it's ever been. So, I think it's good for him, and congratulations to him because that's a good contract.
All right, the Jags will have Trevor Lawrence back, it looks like, today. What are your expectations? And, do you think this is the right move as long as he feels like he's not at any further risk of damaging his left shoulder?
The simple answer to that is yes, Mike. I mean, look, if you can play and you're not risking any further damage to your non-throwing shoulder, you play. And for your guys, you got to be there. And I think that speaks volumes for Trevor that he wants to be there with the possibility of off-season surgery lurking. And I think it will provide a lift for this football team because the reality is the last two games when Mac Jones has been at the helm, it's not been very good. I mean, 313 total yards of offense and 13 points. And that's not going to win you any games. And so the return of Trevor is going to be a lift. Now the question is, who's he going to be throwing the ball to besides Brian Thomas Jr. and Parker Washington? You got Gabe Davis is out. Christian Kirk is still out. Elijah Cooks is going to be a practice squad elevation. Maybe the role of Devin Duvernay gets a little bit increased, but the cast that he is throwing to is a lot different than at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I think because we don't know for sure, but Mike, I'm really interested in how they come out and start this game. Mm-hmm. How was the week of practice? They had the bye week. They were off all week. Come back. Obviously, Trevor has not been taking reps until this week. He was limited in practice. And so it'll be really interesting to see how they start this game. And I think one of the key indicators for me of, how Trevor's going to play is, can they run the ball? Can they take a little bit of pressure and put him in situations that allows him to play action fake, to take shots down the field, to hold it a little bit longer because of protection, because the Texans are having to honor that run game. So I think it's a combination of not just how Trevor plays, but how do the guys around him play? Can they get a run game going? And the only time they have this year is when Tank Bigsby's been healthy, and he's been the center point of that run game.
Well, and they're both healthy now, and I think that's imperative. That early in this ball game, run the football, some easy completions, just to gain some positivity and some rhythm, and get things going for this football team.
Get him warmed up. He's been out for a month. All right, Jeff, Tony, have a great broadcast today, and we will talk to you later.
Thank you, fellas.
Thanks, guys.
All right, that'll do it. Up next, the second hour of the Publix Tailgate Show. JP Shadrick has just stepped into the studios. Top stories of the day coming up, the Texans and Jaguars at 1 o'clock, and you're listening to the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub-platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Paid for by FDOT.
Mr. Chubby's Wings is a whole lot more than just wings. Craving the ultimate game day experience? Look no further. Swing by Mr. Chubby's and indulge in the biggest and best wings in town, all while soaking up the lively atmosphere with fellow sports fans. With plenty of game day specials and locations on the West Side, Fleming Island, Ponte Vedra Beach, and new this season, EverBank Stadium, they're here for all your game day needs. Mr. Chubby's Wings is a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Mr. Chubby's Wings, before the game, after the game, and during the game.
Champions are built from the support and encouragement they get from the team around them. No one knows that better than Jacksonville Jaguars wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr.
As one of the nation's largest pediatric health systems, the Morris Children's Health gives hope to future champions every day to go well beyond their limits. Together, we can redefine children's health. We are the Morris Children's Health.
Frank Frangie here. When you want barbecue in Jacksonville, you want Bono's Pit Barbecue. You can find Bono's locations all around town and on game day at EverBank Stadium because Bono's is the official barbecue of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Over 70 years of authentic Southern Pit Barbecue. We are the local barbecue joint in BBQval for generations of people in Jacksonville. Go to bonosbarbecue.com to learn more or call 904-880-8310 today. And remember, if you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
Touchdown at Jaguars away games when you fly nonstop from Jacksonville International Airport. Join the Jaguars in Miami and Houston. Watch them win in Philly, Detroit, Nashville, and Las Vegas. All the other Jaguars games are just one short connection away. And if airport parking has you stressed, be sure to visit the Jax Airport website before traveling to the terminal. On it, you'll find information about the status of on-airport parking in real time. See if your favorite areas are available or if you need to call an audible. Visit flyjax.com for more information.
The Publix Tailgate Show continues right now.
And it's hour 2 of the Publix Tailgate Show. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. It is week 13, 2 hours away from the Houston Texans and the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's the 1 o'clock kickoff time at the bank. And today's game is presented by University of Florida Health, the proud healthcare partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey. We're at the Hyundai Studios, Miller Electric Center, coming off the bye week. Jaguars 2-9, Texans in first place. Quarterback dinged up, but he's going to go, it sounds like, today. Left tackle's been extended. A lot going on for a team that's out of the race, at least on paper.
Yeah, there's always a lot going on, but in particular here, having Trevor Lawrence back is the big focus. I mean, the offense was stagnant at best. 313 yards over the last 2 games combined is just not good enough in the National Football League, so you feel like you've got a chance when you've got number 16 under center, JP, and hopefully he's able to protect himself today and he doesn't have any physical setbacks, and I think he does give the Jags a chance to win this football game. That I wouldn't feel that way if he weren't out there. Let's put it that way.
Last time we saw this football team play, it was the worst loss in Jaguars history.
Right.
So obviously they've got to play better than that today somehow.
If the defense plays that poorly again, forget it. Doesn't matter what you do offensively. You're not going to be able to overcome giving up 600-plus yards, 52 points. So, let's hope that was somewhat of an outlier. I know they've had a few really bad performances this year, but for the most part, this team has played one-score games, and they're going to have that kind of effort today.
Game day weather brought to you by the St. Johns River Water Management District. Florida's water, it's worth saving. It is a picture-perfect day. A little chilly in the shade, but the sun is out. Bright blue sky, 54 degrees currently. The high today in the low 60s, and it should be a fantastic day for the Texans and the Jaguars. Here are some of today's top stories, starting with Trevor Lawrence. Back at quarterback this week, the left shoulder injury. He's missed the last 2 games. He's had a few weeks now to rest. But he said this week that all options are on the table moving ahead after this week, including surgery to figure out a long-term path forward with that left shoulder.
It's been a pretty difficult thing to gauge, honestly, of what's the best path forward. Definitely something that I'm considering and not off the table at all. So, it's something that we're going to have to just truly day by day, week by week, hopefully I'm able to get back out there this week or as soon as possible. And then it's going to be just every week kind of evaluating it, seeing where it's at. And obviously up until this point, I've been doing everything I can to avoid that and want to be back out there with my guys and finish the season. That's my goal. That's what I want to do. And then beyond that, I wish I had a better answer for you, but I just don't right now.
Obviously, you play until you have no more chances to play, or I'm curious how this changes if the Jaguars are mathematically eliminated from playoff contention. Does the mindset change a little bit on his future and whether to work on it now or wait. I mean, everything's out there right now.
Right, and I think what you hear Trevor Lawrence saying a couple of things this week. One, that it is all still possible. Our goals are still out there. Well, that's only if you win today, right? And then you're mathematically eliminated if you don't. But if you win today, you can still push that narrative down the road another week, JP. But in addition to that, like you said, it's a week-to-week kind of situation with him, right? This may change. Maybe he goes through a game, he gets a few hits, nothing devastating, but maybe it just reaches a point where it's like, hey, win or lose, it's smart to shut you down at this point in time. So I don't think we really know what the end game is going to play out to be like here. I do expect, though, as long as they stay mathematically in contention, Trevor Lawrence is doing everything he can to be out there. And look, he's a football player. He's paid a lot of money to be the leader of this football team. And what kind of signal does it send if you're shutting him down? Now, granted, if you're in a circumstance where he's really at risk of doing further extensive damage to that left shoulder, and that could set back your whole timetable for the next offseason into next year, that's a different story, but it doesn't seem like we're at that point at this moment.
Walker Little, the newly extended left tackle, better keep him upright today, too.
Well, go earn that contract extension, or show us that you were worthy of it, and it's interesting, the Jags, Trent Baalke doesn't hand out a lot of contracts during the season, but I think if you look, it's not an exactly robust list of free agent potential starting tackles in the NFL. So if you don't re-sign Walker Little, I'm sure this is part of the calculus. You're looking at who might be available, what you're going to have to spend. Will it be more in an open market type environment? And if you don't do that, then you're almost locking yourself in to needing to find a starter with that first pick. Now this at least gives them a little bit of flexibility at the moment.
A little more on the Jaguars offense coming up with Kai Stevens in a few minutes in the broadcast booth and the running game for the Jaguars. Let's go to the Jaguars defense now. Ranked last in the NFL in total D, near the bottom of most major metrics across the board. Defensive coordinator Ryan Nielsen this week on the possible adjustments after the bye.
You'll see a little bit different wrinkle. Look, we can't change everything, and we are who we are. But there'll be a few different wrinkles. We're at the part of the season, guys have done a good job with the volume and things like that, but moving some guys around and bringing some guys here, pressuring a little bit here, playing some more coverage in these, you self-scout. Where are we pressuring a lot? Where are we playing coverage and things like that? And so I think that'll be the biggest change.
Well, let's see how different this looks today, if at all. I mean, you got to start with the pressure. You got to start with stopping the run game, and Joe Mixon on the other side, who was not in this game in week 4. He was not available for the Texans that week. He's been fantastic all year. If they get the run game going, balance it out, Stroud, play action, the drill.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Look, and I think the other thing, too, are we going to see some of these young players play significantly more snaps? Ventrell Miller's been dynamite in the snaps that he's played. Will he get a larger share of the work at linebacker? Will Monteric Brown start to take some snaps away from Ronald Darby? Will we see Mason Smith make an impact over the final 6 weeks of the season? I think these are all part of the internal changes that maybe won't be obvious right away, but as the games play out, we'll see if we can get some better impact from these young players.
Jaguars are still working, even with the odds stacked against them and the record at 2-9. Linebacker Foye Oluokun sees it in the locker room.
It's cool to have everybody keep working towards the same thing. Nobody's checked out or nothing like that. We all want to get it right. However many games we got left this season, we want to get it right. And I think that's just real, pride towards being on this team, pride towards, being in this city. But, we have a duty to get this right before the season ends.
Professional football players go play professional football, and head coach Doug Peterson has to get them out there going as well. 6 games to go, must win today to stay in the division race. 4 of the last 6 games are in the AFC South. Head coach Doug Peterson.
Where we are and 6 games left, these are all sort of must-win games. In order for us to even have a shot, they just happen to be division games, right, 4 of the last 6. So, we've got to take each one week by week, and we got a good, Houston team, that's coming in here. We understand what happened last game, down in Houston, and we just got to learn to finish and do some little things a little bit better. But yeah, it doesn't get any easier. I think Tennessee's playing good, big win last week. Defensively, they're playing outstanding. It's a tough sled, but we just got to go one at a time.
It's actually, on paper, it's like the second easiest schedule remaining in the NFL this year. but considering the circumstances, everything, just go win a game first and then figure out the rest
Right.
of it.
But look, there's no one left on the schedule that the Jags can't beat. There's no one left on the schedule that they can't lose to either. Let's be honest. I mean, they're 2-9, right? They've lost to all manner of teams this year. And like you said, Tennessee just beat Houston last week. So, they're obviously still feeling like they're in it. They're more in it mathematically than the Jags are. So you're going to get everybody's best effort down the stretch.
There you have it, some of the best sound of the week. Jags fans can't make the game. We get it. You can easily donate your Jags tickets to VetTix, military veterans in the community, through the Jaguars ticketing account page. Select more on the ticket page and select the game you'd like to donate. VetTix, tickets for troops. Let's head inside EverBank Stadium in the broadcast booth. Kainani Stevens enjoying the sun-splashed Sunday morning. Good morning, Kai. How are you?
Hello. I'm good. How are you?
What's so funny?
Yeah, alliterative this morning. Very energetic.
Well,
Sun-splashed stadium.
It's refreshed off a bye week, Kai. I mean, that's what it is.
Absolutely.
Hopefully the Jaguars are that too today.
I really hope so. That would be really nice for all of us here.
Yeah, let's get to this offense. And obviously Trevor Lawrence is going to give it a go today. Walker Little just got extended, but this is a running football team, Kai, and they've been at their best. When they've been at their best, they've been able to run the ball. Tank Bigsby, ETN. What's the balance today? It seems like both are healthy right now.
Which is great, and obviously the 2 wins that they have had this year have been games where Tank Bigsby's had a good day, multiple touchdowns, and running well. We've made a ton about Trevor Lawrence coming back to play, but it's not going to mean anything if they can't get the run going because it won't matter. The defense won't have to respect it. So having Travis and Tank in this game together, I'm hoping that combination, they can get back to a little bit of the success that they have had this season. That combination out there has been what's been working for them, but they're going to have to do that early.
It's been good to see the growth of Tank Bigsby this year. I mean, the way he's developed, and obviously he's been hurt a little bit this year, but he's held on to the football for the most part. He's had some breakaway runs and some success. And, we didn't really say that a lot last year. They didn't really trust the guy. So it's a step in the right direction for Tank.
He's grown so much in his second season, and you can see the respect factor. There is trust there as well. If there's a mistake, you don't immediately go away from him. Obviously, as a rookie, you don't get the benefit of the doubt very often, and because of the issues he had early in the season, whether it was, a fumble or whatever, some of the balls going off of his hands, and then, kind of getting the fall for that, whether Trevor's gunning it at him too fast or whatnot. But he didn't have a lot of that trust, and then you could see his confidence waned in himself. And this year he's clearly done some work on himself, and just his mentality is a lot different, and you're seeing the results of that. When he's been healthy, he's been really successful.
And he's great in contact as well, almost 5 yards after contact per carry in 2024, the highest in the next-gen stats era. I mean, this is a guy that bounces off tackles and goes. He just needs a little more volume, right? I mean, the way they balance it out, he may not get the same volume as a Derrick Henry or a Saquon Barkley.
And I don't think he's built necessarily at this point to be that way. I think he when he does get his touches, he utilizes that. Obviously, as he bounces off those tackles, it feels like he powers up and then goes faster after that contact point. But if they're going to be successful, it's going to have to be a two-back situation. The way this team is built right now, I don't know if just Tank is going to be able to do that. But I think this combination, both of them healthy, is the best chance they're going to get.
Kai Stevens joining us from the bank ahead of Week 13, the Texans and the Jaguars. Way back in Week 4, Kai, you were down in Houston, and it was a back-and-forth ball game. The Jags missed a couple of deep shots. They had opportunities for big plays. They just couldn't hit them. And then the Texans go down the field and score the late touchdown. Do they have this kind of feel in them again today? Can they get back to that point where they're in these games in the fourth and fighting for a win late?
If there's ever going to be an opportunity, it's going to be this one. Houston's been struggling recently, and they have a bear of a schedule after this. So this is probably, they're looking at like, hey, we need this win considering the other games that they have coming up the back half of this season, whereas the Jaguars had probably most of their tougher games earlier this year. They always play each other well in division matchups, and just knowing your opponent that well, I'm hoping they can come in with that renewed energy. I think whenever Trevor plays, obviously he's been hurt. When he comes back, the team's going to have a little bit extra juice, just knowing their guys out there. And hopefully if they can get going early and not try to, rally back from behind, which they've been known to do this season, I think that should benefit them.
Can they cover Nico Collins today?
That would be nice. I mean, that's a good game plan. I would have to hope maybe that was discussed at some point this week. He's just, that combination that they have is so good. The A lot of my focus would be on Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines-Allen today because the offensive line for the Texans has struggled so mightily. You got to rush C.J. Stroud, and then hopefully Nico Collins doesn't have enough time to get open. That would be probably the way to go.
That would be good. Nico,
that'd be a good idea.
12 catches, 151 yards, and a touchdown last time out in Week 4 against the Jaguars defense. Kai Stevens, enjoy the sunshine today.
I will. Thanks, guys.
That's Kai joining us from the bank ahead of the Texans and the Jaguars matchup. We've got plenty ahead. We'll look around the NFL when we come back. John Harris of the Texans Radio Network. He'll give us his perspective on this Texans defense and where they might stand all time in Texans history. Yeah, that's right. It's December 1st. It's Week 13, but the Texans are talking big on defense. John Harris coming up shortly. Plenty ahead of the Texans-Jaguars matchup. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff. And this is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
We've spent a lot of time in our homes.
I'm on a Zoom call.
Dinner's ready.
But we've learned that when we love our home, it loves us right back. Now you can keep that love going when you install energy-efficient natural gas appliances and earn up to $1,925 in cash rebates. You'll love endless hot water, faster drying and cooking times, and ongoing savings and comfort. To learn more and how to qualify, visit peoplesgas.com/rebates.
Champions are built from the support and encouragement they get from the team around them. No one knows that better than Jacksonville Jaguars wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr.
As one of the nation's largest pediatric health systems, the Morris Children's Health gives hope to future champions every day to go well beyond their limits. Together, we can redefine children's health. We are the Morris Children's Health.
Hey Jags fans, Extreme isn't always about heat, it's about flavor. And 505 knows flavor, so wake up those sleepy taste buds with 505's new lineup of premium craft salsa. Powered by the bud-kicking boldness of fire-roasted Hatch Valley chilies, 505 sauces are more than enough to bulk up any simple spread. Ignite your sense of boldness with 505's all-new assortment of fiercely fiery flavors featuring 505's new black bean and corn craft salsa. And of course, 505's award-winning flagship flavor, Southwestern style.
Football is back. Celebrate with a gay Duval meal deal. Score 2 roller grill favorites and a 20-ounce Coca-Cola soft drink for just $4.50. That means you can choose any 2 to pair with your Coke. 2 hot dogs, 2 tornadoes, 2 roller bites, or mix and match. Whether you're stopping for a quick snack or tailgating with friends, this is a victory for every Jags fan. Deal happening now through January 2nd, 2025. Stop by to purchase in store.
If you are an experienced electrician looking for your next big opportunity, look no further than the Miller Electric Company, a trusted name in the industry for over 96 years. At Miller Electric, we tackle the biggest projects in the city, offering you the chance to showcase your skills on a grand scale. We believe in rewarding hard work with the best pay, top-notch benefits, and an unbeatable culture where people actually care about each other. Take your career to new heights with Miller Electric Company. Apply today at millercareers.com. Miller Electric, an equal opportunity employer.
JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey from the Hyundai Studios. The Publix Tailgate Show continues inside 2 hours to Week 13. The Houston Texans at 7-5 in first place. Meet the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're not in first place. They're 2-9. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff time today. Today's game is presented by University of Florida Health, the proud healthcare partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. As the Jags try to get it going after the bye, 6 games to play in the regular year. Let's go around the National Football League.
All right, JP, while the 7-5 Houston Texans take on your 2-9 Jaguars today, the other two teams in the AFC South are also in action in the early kickoff window. In New England, the 5-7 Indianapolis Colts visit the 3-9 Patriots. The Colts have lost 4 of their last 5 games with a 1-point win over the Jets, their only victory in that stretch. Indy will be without wide receiver Josh Downs today, who's nursing a shoulder injury that he suffered last week. Meanwhile, in Washington, the 3-8 Titans will take on the 7-5 Commanders. Tennessee coming off a 32-27 win over Houston, in which quarterback Will Levis threw for 278 yards and a pair of touchdowns. In his 3 games since returning from injury, Levis has thrown 5 TDs against a pair of interceptions, but the Titans have only won one of those games in that stretch. Elsewhere, heavy lake effect snow is expected to blanket Orchard Park, New York, where the Buffalo Bills are scheduled to host the San Francisco 49ers on Sunday Night Football. The Bills organization is offering to pay fans $20 an hour plus food and drinks to come in and shovel out the seating bowl.
What kind of drinks?
Warm ones. They actually specified all the warm drinks you can drink.
Okay.
So maybe a hot toddy in there. Snow plows have been at work since yesterday trying to make sure the field is playable, but we could be in for our second epic snow game of the season that follows Pittsburgh-Cleveland 2 Thursdays ago. San Francisco quarterback Brock Purdy, by the way, expected to start despite missing last week with a shoulder injury. Elsewhere, the Arizona Cardinals have signed running back James Conner to a 2-year, $19 million contract extension that will put him under contract through the 2026 season. Conner was playing on the final year of an extension he signed ahead of the 2022 campaign. In 3+ years with the Cardinals, Conner's produced 4,407 scrimmage yards and 40 total touchdowns. And for Kansas City, as if they need it, more help could be on the way for the Chiefs. Wide receiver Marquise Hollywood Brown is expected back soon from his preseason shoulder injury suffered against the Jags, as a matter of fact, in the preseason. It's reportedly likely that he will play before the regular season ends. Brown has an appointment in Week 15 with his surgeon to potentially gain final clearance. He's yet to suit up for Kansas City after signing a 1-year deal in the offseason, but he would join a revamped Chiefs wide receiver core that's lost Rashee Rice for the season but added DeAndre Hopkins via trade. Kansas City improved to 11-1 this week with a 19-17 win over the Las Vegas Raiders on Friday. And finally, Pittsburgh offensive coordinator Arthur Smith has no plans, apparently, to leave the NFL for the college ranks. Smith, who'd been under consideration for the position of head coach at his alma mater, the University of North Carolina, is staying with the Steelers and will be there for the foreseeable future. He recently informed UNC that he is not interested in discussing the opening.
All right, there you have it. Look around the NFL. It's funny, though, like the Kansas City Chiefs are allegedly not as good as they've been the last couple years. Then they get these wins, 19-17. They got 11 wins. They're 11-1, and they know how to win these close games.
Sure. Look, they're very good at that, but there's no question to me that they're more gettable than they've been, right? I mean, look.
Still got to go get them, though.
Okay, but it was clock mismanagement and sloppy play that kept the Raiders from kicking a very makeable field goal. By the way, they'd missed 3 previous field goals in the game, so could have already been leading at that point. Carolina took them to overtime the week before, and many people were looking at that as the worst team in the National Football League for a good portion of the year. And Buffalo beat them the week before that, and that's one of the teams that's going to be a primary roadblock, at least potentially. But for the Bills to get that game at home, Kansas City's going to have to lose at least one more, and Buffalo might have to run the table. So, look, I'm not ruling Kansas City out by any stretch, but they do seem gettable.
You heard it here first. Well, not first.
Probably not first.
There you have it. Hey, the Jaguars and the Texans coming up. John Harris is the sideline reporter and an analyst for Houston Texans radio. And if you remember that name, if it sounds familiar, he's the former head coach at Episcopal High School here in Jacksonville in the mid-1990s. Plenty to discuss about the Texans this week, including the issues lately with the Texans' offense and quarterback C.J. Stroud.
Well, C.J. said it his presser after the game. He just said it point blank to the media. He said, I'm just not playing well right now. I don't think there's as much truth to that statement as he wants it to believe. He threw a couple interceptions. I think the first interception he threw was more on the receiver than it was on him. Second one was all him. But he's the kind of guy that is going to internalize the offense's issues. I know the talk nationally after the game was, C.J. Stroud, sophomore slump, all this. And I really was upset because I was like, C.J.'s really made some good throws in that game and really did some good things that we're accustomed to seeing. And so I went back and I watched every single throw, and I'm like, man, people are missing the boat on this. He did make a couple of kind of non-CJ like throws, but I don't buy this whole sophomore slump thing. I think the sophomore slump has come about, if you want to say that, in large part because the protection just hasn't been where it's needed to be. And I know that, Trevor has gone through that at times where he's had some struggles, and you could attribute some of those to the offensive line not playing as well as it probably should have in front of him. I think what's been the Texans' issue is that offensive line has made CJ basically go through quarterback hell. I mean, he drops, and as soon as he hits his back foot, he's having to run or throw it away or do something, kind of go into hero ball mode just to get the ball off. And that's a shame because receivers have been open. He just hasn't had that time. He's gotten sped up a little bit because that pressure is getting to him. Simulated pressures have been a monster. Our guys have not picked it up. So we've not had an offensive line that's played exceptionally well in front of him consistently enough to keep CJ on track. And of course, he's also being compared to a standard as a rookie where he was one of the greatest rookie seasons of all time. So there's been some things, some hills and valleys for him. We missed Nico for about 5 weeks. Been without Diggs since the Colts win about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So trying to manage life without them, trying to just manage life with, Joe being back, and Joe's been really good. But in the 2 games that we lost here, the offensive line opened no holes against Detroit, opened no holes against the Tennessee Titans. Joe being back is great, but if there's nowhere to run, then and the Jaguars are going to make it very difficult, I think, against this offensive line to give them holes to run. I think that's really kind of at the crux of where this offense is. It started off well to a degree, but second half issues have been just huge.
John Harris with us, Texans Radio. Defensively, Will Anderson's been hurt a bunch of the year, came back last week, couple sacks. They were all over Levis in the first half, obviously. But Danielle Hunter's been playing well, seems like statistically. Where are they on the defensive side? They're taking the ball away some, it feels like. Where does this rank defensively? Can this group carry the load while the offense figures it out?
Well, to this point, they've carried the load. I feel bad for them that they should have never lost the Detroit game. I mean, put it this way. In fact, our good buddy, Drew Doherty, who JP, he sent me an email. He said, we picked off Detroit 5 times and lost. We sacked Will Levis 8 times, had 2 turnovers and a pick 6, and lost to the Titans. So this defense, and I've seen some good ones here in Houston, but I think from front to back to front, it's as good a defense as I've seen here. Because for a lot of those years we had good defenses, we had J.J. Watt, and it was J.J. doing the solo singing, and then everybody else was, it was Gladys Knight and the Pips, basically. This group is, it's everybody getting a shot at the mic. This is like Wu-Tang. Everybody gets a shot with bars. Everybody gets to spit some bars, and away you go. But it's really starting to evolve into Danielle Hunter being dominating. I mean, dominating. JP was as good as I've seen a Texans defensive end pass rusher ever the last 2 weeks against Dallas and then against Tennessee ever. I mean, he's phenomenal. It's one of the best free agent signings we've ever had. Will's now getting back into the fold. We're getting some good play from guys that maybe weren't expecting on the interior. We will miss Jalen Petrie. That will hurt. Jalen was kind of a chess piece. They would use him in nickel. They'd move him around. He'd play with linebacker. He'd blitz, he'd drop, he'd cover, he'd tackle, physical presence. We're going to miss him. He's going to be out with a shoulder injury, so that's going to be a big one. And how we kind of adapt to that going forward is going to be tough. So don't know what his progress is going to be going forward, but I know he's going to definitely miss this game. And we'll miss him. But Derek Stingley has turned into arguably the best corner in the league. He's phenomenal. They also last week gave up some deep shots. And if it does have an Achilles heel, and this, it's the deep shots. We gave up a few to Jacksonville, and that was a killer. And it really was what gave Jacksonville life. And it is what gave Will Levis and Tennessee life the other day, just giving up those deep shots. So got to keep the ball in front, rally the football. It's as fast and as quick a defense as I can remember seeing here in Houston. And I know people will say, well, he gave up points. And, but if you look at what they've done, I know the Jags just saw Jared Goff the other day and that was a week after we had played him. We picked him off 5 times, and he completed 50% of his passes. In fact, Levis is the only guy to complete over 60% of his passes this year against the Texans at NRG Stadium, and he did it with ease, really, and he did it with the deep ball. And so that does worry me a little bit because Trevor did miss some deep balls. They got behind us, and whether it's Trevor or Mac, we don't know, but I got a feeling they're going to try to exploit us with the deep ball again, because if we do have an Achilles heel on defense, that's it. Beyond that, the only other Achilles heel we have is that the offense hasn't been picking up its side of the bargain, and that the defense has got to be out there for an extended amount of plays. That can't happen. That's got to even itself out and get to a point where we were in week 1, where against the Colts we had 34, 35 minutes of time possession. The other day we had 24 minutes. So the offense has got to start helping the defense a little bit. This defensive unit's incredible. But you're going into week 13, you're going into a stretch after the bye where you play Miami, Kansas City, Baltimore, and then you go to Tennessee. Man, defense is only going to be able to do so much. The offense is really, second half in particular, got to start picking it up for this team.
That is John Harris of the Texans Radio Network. The full conversation on the official Jaguars podcast network. Yeah, the Texans have a bye next week. They'll face the Dolphins, Chiefs, and Ravens in the 3 weeks after that. The Ravens, Dolphins, and Chiefs, all top 10 scoring offenses since week 8. So the Texans trying to get this one in the division today against the Jaguars. Up next, a pregame huddle up with Bucky Brooks and John Ozier in the broadcast booth. Inactives are due as well. We're an hour and a half from the 1 o'clock kickoff time for the Texans and Jaguars. This is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub-platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
It's storm season, and JEA is committed to keeping you informed. In the event of a storm, we'll text and email you about the status of your services. We use Facebook and Twitter to post real-time updates. Our live outage map on JEA.com lets you track restoration progress. And as crews work to restore services, our storm outreach team will be in local neighborhoods to answer your questions. Because as your community utility, JEA is here to keep you safe and connected. Your community, your utility.
Jags fans, are you ready to upgrade your living space? Enter for a chance to win the ultimate furniture giveaway. You could enhance your home with a new sectional, queen mattress, or queen bedroom set, courtesy of Furniture Source. One lucky fan will receive new furniture after every Jaguars home game this season. Don't miss out. Enter today by visiting jaguars.com/sweepstakes. Jaguars.com/sweepstakes. Selections will vary by game.
Our commitment isn't just seen throughout the community. It's celebrated by our patients. Our achievements aren't just found in our labs. They are advancing the way we care for you. Our comforting approach and advocacy aren't just found bedside. They are inspiring the next generation of caregivers. UF Health Jacksonville. Our care never quits. See how at ufhealthjacks.org/neverquit.
Calling all junior fire chiefs. Parents, register for your child to win the ultimate Jaguars game day experience. Sponsored by Firehouse Subs. Cheering on the Jags from the Firehouse Subs fire truck at EverBank Stadium. Flashing the fire truck lights when the Jags score. As honorary junior fire chief of the game, your child will receive a Firehouse Subs gift, and the whole family will receive 4 tickets and a parking pass to a home game this season. Visit jaguars.com/sweepstakes to enter to win today. See website for terms and conditions. Can you smell it? The sweet scent of victory is already in the air, Jags fans. Wait a minute. That's not victory. That's the warm, buttery, sweet aroma of freshly baked Auntie Anne's pretzels. Your nose knows. Follow it to the nearest Auntie Anne's. Now located right here in EverBank Stadium. Auntie Anne's. Let's get twisted.
JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey from the Hyundai Studios. The Publix Tailgate Show continues. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. The Texans and the Jaguars meeting in Week 13 at EverBank Stadium, a 1 o'clock kickoff time. The Texans have won 9 of the last 10 road games against the Jaguars. One of those games was at Wembley Stadium, London. The rest, of course, here in Jacksonville. But the Texans last lost in Jacksonville in the 2017 campaign. The Jags trying to snap a skid against the Texans here at home today. The inactives are in. Let's get to the Jaguars players out today. Dearness Johnson, running back, is down today. That means that Keelan Robinson likely is the third running back for the Jaguars today behind Etienne and Bigsby. C.J. Beathard, inactive, but he is the emergency third quarterback. He'll be dressed on the sideline. Yasir Abdullah, linebacker, out today. Javon Foster, rookie lineman, hasn't been active all year. Asezio Tomewo, defensive tackle, he's out. Rookie defensive tackle Jordan Jefferson will not play. Mason Smith is active today, rookie defensive tackle out of LSU. And as we mentioned there, Keelan Robinson might get a little bit of time, maybe more on special teams today. But most importantly, Trevor Lawrence is active, and he'll play quarterback for the Jaguars today.
Yeah, it seems to be a pretty big one there, JP. He will not face Foley Fatukasi, the former Jaguar, injured and unable to suit up today for Houston, as is their starting free safety, Jalen Petrie, also serves as a nickelback at times for them. He will not be playing today. 5 other reserves not suiting up include Jamal Hill, an inside linebacker, a pair of wide receivers in Steve Sims and Xavier Hutchinson, Nick Broker, who's a guard, and defensive end Jerry Hughes round out the list of Texans unavailable.
The inactives are in. They're active in the broadcast booth, though. Bucky Brooks and John Oehser are up and ready for Week 13. 6 games to go in the regular year. Good morning, guys. How are you?
I'm great, man. It's a new season. We're going to finish it off. We had the bye week. We're refreshed. We're refocused. We're ready to get going.
We're active, and it is a beautiful day here. Jacksonville, late November, early December football is always a great day. So Here we are.
We are here, and the Jaguars are here, and Trevor Lawrence is here as well. He's going to play today. Left shoulder issue. Bucky, how you feel about it? Let's see how he does today. Right, coming off the bye, should be well rested.
Yeah, beyond the performance, I'm really excited, and I'm actually impressed with Trevor Lawrence's decision to play. I know there was a lot of conversation about should he shut it down. The team is 2-9. There doesn't appear to be any hope for the team to make the postseason, but for him to show up speaks a lot about his football character. Now, in terms of the performance, we needed Trevor Lawrence to come back. The offense has been pedestrian at best since he's gone away. He gives this offense a little life, a little spark, and so maybe it'll kind of energize the entire team knowing that number 16 is back on the field.
Yeah, pedestrians insulted at that comparison. It's been bad, but Lawrence being back obviously should give him some life. I'm not surprised that he made the effort and the commitment to get back when there was all the talk going on whether he would or not. If we've seen anything from this kid over 3 or 4 years, it's that he's going to play if able. To me, as long as he can look like Trevor and not look like the guy who was sort of obviously playing through stuff late last year, then it's a fine decision. I do wonder if and when they are eliminated, because Bucky, if they win out, and
we control our own destiny.
I'm just going to stop there.
That's right, Bucky.
Not quite control of destiny, but if they get eliminated, does that change the equation? If the shoulder gets beat up a little bit, this still feels a little fluid. Even based on what Trevor said this week, it felt a little fluid. But gutsy to come back, and goodness, don't we need the offense to look better?
Well, we need a lot of things to look better. The offense certainly among them, guys. And if you are calling plays for the Jags today, how much you want to lean on the running game?
I mean, you always want to lean on the running game, but a lot of it depends on the offensive line's performance. Can the offensive line block the Texans up front? The Texans up front, their front line is talented. They got big-time playmakers, more so against the pass. But, yeah, you would like to lean on the run, but, man, the offensive line has to play at a high level. And hopefully everyone understands that. Trevor Lawrence is back. You got to raise your performance up front. So hopefully they're able to get that done.
Yeah, and I think if they're going to lean on the running game, it has to be done in a certain way. In 3 years with this offense, it's never been a turn around and hand the ball to the running back and blow teams off the ball. So it's They have to take advantage of matchups. It's what they've said for 3 years. It's what they've had to do. So I don't know if it's a team that can really just blow you off the ball with 3 yards in a cloud of dust. I think they have to pass and be efficient in the passing game as part of the running game in order to make this work. So I think they will do that. I think you'll see more short passes trying to set stuff up and get in rhythm early.
Bucky Brooks, John Oehser joining us from EverBank Stadium, a pregame huddle up. Bucky, how you feel about the Walker Little extension, $15 million a year?
I mean, I feel good about it because it must mean that someone up top feels that he's going to be a premier player at some point. He hasn't done it consistently. He's shown flashes of being a pretty good player. But now that the ink is dry on the contract, he has to step his game up. There are expectations that come along with significant money. And so his production has to match his compensation. So hopefully he can do that.
Yeah, I'm surprised. It surprised me. There are certainly questions about it. But he is a guy who, when he has played, there have been times he's played at a high level. And in terms of trying to structure a roster going forward, looking ahead to an off season, presumably now you don't have to push as hard for a left tackle in the draft. You know, it opens you up in the off season. So I'm sure that was the rationale behind the move. Is there's a lot of things this team's going to need. Now they should not need offensive tackle early, which I guess frees you up in the draft. I'm assuming that was a big reason for it.
The only thing I would say, right, on the paper it looks like part of a movement to draft, develop, and re-sign your players.
Yep.
The thing that we have to look at of all the people that have been re-signed, and we look at their performances, did it equate to what the money was? Does it make sense based on how they performed to make sure that those guys are your nucleus, your core guys? And so Walker Little is now considered a core guy.
Yep.
He needs to play like that. And I think the one thing that you always have to be honest and the hardest thing to do is to evaluate your own squad, to evaluate it without bias. So regardless of where he comes in as a second-round pick and the regime drafted him, you still have to compare his play and performance against those around the league and what's available in the draft.
All right, guys, we heard Doug Peterson this week talk about some changes that are going to be made, but wouldn't really get into details on that. Ryan Nielsen alluded to some changes on the defensive side as well. On that side of the ball, what changes would you like to see, whether it's more playing time for certain players, different approach, maybe a little bit more aggressive with the blitzing, or what? You tell me.
Well, the personnel dictates what you can do. And so whenever we've tried to be aggressive, we've hung our DBs out to dry, and our DBs haven't responded well. And when we relied on a four-man rush, we haven't been able to get home. So it has to be a little mix. You kind of have to spin the wheel on defense and see if you can make a handful of plays. The one thing that has helped the team is when they've been able to play bend but don't break, concede yards between the 20s, and play really good in the red zone. That's been the recipe to keeping games tight. I would expect to see a little more of that, but the offense has to perform well if you're going to opt for that strategy on defense.
Yeah, I'm always skeptical when we talk about mid-season personnel change. There's usually a lot of talk about it, and usually not a lot of it on the field, mainly because if these coaches thought there were guys who could play better, they'd already be playing. So maybe Monteric Brown a little more at corner, Mason Smith up today, maybe some things like that, maybe Ventrell Miller a little more. But Bucky, usually there's just not that much you do because you feel like you're already throwing the guys out there who can give you the best shot.
Yeah, your team is your team. And so you kind of have to roll with them. Just hope they play better.
Hard to find a eureka moment this late in the season with changes. And I'd like whatever changes the big play thing. Jaguars have allowed 92 plays of 15 or more yards this year, second most in the NFL. We saw it happen in Detroit 2 weeks ago. Guys, have a great day today. Enjoy the sunshine, and let's get a win. How about it? Keep it going.
Here Fantastic, we go. Win number 3 on the horizon.
See? But Bucky's glass is half full, John. Take a hint.
He just locked it.
Yeah, I heard it.
Why not? Guaranteed.
I love it. Bucky Brooks, John Oehser joining us from EverBank Stadium ahead of the Jaguars-Texans matchup. Up next, Fantasy Forecast. Frank Frangie in the broadcast booth. Week 13, 1 o'clock kickoff time, and this is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. a high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense, a rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
When you show your home love with a natural gas water heater, it loves you right back with more cost-efficient, endless hot water.
Hon, hurry it up, please.
And right now, you'll love earning a cash rebate up to $700 when you install an energy-efficient natural gas water heater.
We're going to be late. Again.
What? Did you say something, hon?
To learn more and how to qualify, visit peoplesgas.com/rebates.
Our commitment isn't just seen throughout the community. It's celebrated by our patients. Our achievements aren't just found in our labs. They are advancing the way we care for you. Our comforting approach and advocacy aren't just found bedside. They are inspiring the next generation of caregivers. UF Health Jacksonville. Our care never quits. See how at ufhealthjacks.org/neverquit.
The kick is up. It's good!
Score winning sub deals this Jaguar season at Firehouse Subs. Receive 50% off on any sub when the Jaguars kick a field goal of 40 yards or more. It's a bold deal for the bold city. Download the Firehouse Subs app for offer details. Redeemable only at participating Jacksonville and Orlando area restaurants. Only available in the Firehouse Subs app. Feeling hungry, Jaguars fans? Fuel your Duval energy with a delicious Stallmeyer all-beef hot dog on game day as you support your Jacksonville Jaguars. Whether you're at the game or at home, it's not game day without a Stallmeyer all-beef hot dog made in Florida. Stallmeyer all-beef hot dogs will fuel your energy to help bring on a victory for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Stallmeyer all-beef hot dogs are available at your local Publix supermarkets. Don't feel hungry, Jaguars fans. Fuel your energy with the official hot dog of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Stallmeyer.
Jacksonville Builders score big with DL Cabinetry. As the official cabinet supplier of the Jacksonville Jaguars, they offer top quality kitchen and bathroom cabinetry for any project. Enjoy fast turnaround, complimentary design, and great prices. Visit dlcabinetry.com today to learn more and to become a dealer. Limited spots available. DL Cabinetry, the winning choice for builders.
This is the Publix Tailgate Show. JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey from the Hyundai Studios. The Jacksonville Jaguars at 2-9 meet the 7-5 Houston Texans at EverBank Stadium. Kickoff time set for 1 o'clock. And today's game is presented by University of Florida Health, the proud healthcare partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Time now, Mike Dempsey, for a fantasy forecast.
All right, JP, looking at the early kickoffs today, we've got the LA Chargers in Atlanta to take on the Falcons. J.K. Dobbins not only going to miss this week, he was placed on injured reserve yesterday with a knee injury. I don't know anybody who's had more recent bad injury luck than J.K. Dobbins had a nice season. He's still eligible to return before the regular season is done, but now we turn to Gus Edwards in that backfield. At least he's probably the most attractive of what could be a three-way split because he'll probably get the goal line work. Hassan Haskins, Kamani Vidal, they could make Edwards less than appealing as a flex option for you. But if you're a little bit desperate this week, and you might not be with no teams on a bye, Gus Edwards probably your best bet out of that backfield. Pittsburgh at Cincinnati today. And, you think about the Steelers are so good defensively, particularly against quarterbacks, and therefore good against receivers as well. But T. Higgins in particular has had a lot of success against his team. Every year since he's been in the league, thus in that division, he's had at least one 100-yard game against Pittsburgh. Now, they haven't played him yet this year. There's 2 games to go. Will that be today? We'll find out. As Joe Burrow said, he doesn't know how his wrist is going to perform in weather that is pretty cold. It's going to be right around freezing in Cincinnati. Indianapolis at New England today. Demario Douglas is active active for the Patriots. Alec Pierce is active for the Colts. Both were questionable coming in. Josh Downs has been ruled out, picked up a shoulder injury in Week 12. Breece Hall will play today for the New York Jets with a knee issue. A little worrisome because coming out of a bye week, he missed the first practice of the week for the Jets, but he did get in a full practice on Friday, and he is up today for New York. In the 4 o'clock window, Philadelphia is at Baltimore. Devontae Smith has a hamstring issue, caused him to miss last week, and the early indications from reports this morning are not positive unless something changes. Devontae Smith not likely to suit up against Baltimore today. Sunday Night Football, who knows how this is going to go down. Lake effect snow in Buffalo. The shots last night showed absolutely zero visibility, right? So which obviously could impact the passing game. Plus, Brock Purdy comes into this one with a shoulder injury. He is expected to start in this game, but how eager are you to play him in these conditions? On the other side, you always want to play Josh Allen, I feel, even in snowy conditions because he's such an effective runner, and that pads his fantasy stats. But he's without his tight end Dalton Kincaid today. Keon Coleman, the rookie wide receiver out of Florida State, is questionable to go in that game. And then if you're looking ahead to Monday Night Football, Cedric Tillman, who had a good 3-game burst or so with the Cleveland Browns in the middle of the season, picked up a concussion last week. He has already been ruled out for Monday night.
Well, there's one thing that's been canceled in Orchard Park already today. They just announced it. The halftime drone show has been postponed.
I probably couldn't get him in the air. They're probably too cold to fly him.
It's snow flying everywhere.
No, it is like there's been no talk about moving that
playing.
game.
I think they're playing.
I think they're playing as well. You know, they've had snow plows in there clearing the field since yesterday. Problem is the lake effect snow is in the forecast until 7 p.m. tomorrow.
That's right.
Right. So it's going to be snowy in Buffalo. Who doesn't love a good snow game?
It's great on television.
Yes, unless you need big numbers from your fantasy wide receivers.
Then it's not so good.
Yeah. Not always so good.
We're about 10 minutes away from countdown to kickoff on the Jaguars Radio Network, presented by the University of Florida, #1 university in the U.S. News and World Report's #1 state for education. Frank Frangie joining us from EverBank Stadium in the broadcast booth. What would it take, Frank, for you to shovel snow out of a stadium?
Oh, yeah, I can't even imagine. Here's what I was thinking when you guys were going through that, JP, and good morning to you and Mike. I'm awfully glad we played there in September. I know it didn't go well, but I'm seeing all those reports, so I've got no interest in shoveling snow anywhere, JP. I can promise you that. That's why I like looking at this beautiful field. It's going to be about 61 degrees here. I don't see a cloud in the sky, and I'm glad I live here and not there. That's what I'll tell you.
Yeah, and here, coming off the bye week, the Jaguars should be rested and relaxed and refocused and re-energized. They've said all the right things this week. So how is this going to feel today? Can they – obviously they can come out here and hang with the Texans and win the game, but will they? They looked so bad last time out.
Yeah, they really did. I do think there's something to that. I really do believe there's something to that. A team getting fatigued a little bit, and I think it was a team that did get fatigued a little bit. It's a long year. A lot of close games, which I think can be very emotional when games are close like that, and I think that's kind of what happened. The 2-week trip to London, I think they were a tired team a little bit. Now, I mean, again, listen, everybody's got to go through it. I can only imagine what the Texans are going through, JP. They still haven't had their bye, and they played in the Hall of Fame game, so it's been a really long run for them. But, yeah, I think the Jags will be a more energized team, and they'll play better than they did in Detroit. That was one of those games. You rarely see a game like that in the NFL, and hopefully you won't see another one anytime soon.
Frank, the news of the morning is the Jaguars have reached an agreement with Walker Little on a 3-year contract extension. Gave him starters money, not top of the market, but pretty good money. What's your reaction?
My guess is, I was surprised. I didn't see it coming. I didn't think there'd be an extension of sorts during the season, so it kind of surprised me, Mike. My guess is they had that in mind when they moved on from Cam Robinson. Everybody knows what happened with Cam today. That day when he was not a starter and he was in uniform, and we all know what happened that day, and they traded him a day later. My guess is they had a plan with Walker Little then, or they wouldn't have made that move. And so even though it was unlikely Cam was coming back here, so I think this has probably been in the works. My guess is they've probably gone back and forth with the agent for a while. So I think Walker Little's a good player. I am surprised it happened during the season only because I didn't expect it to happen.
Yeah, I mean, if he'd have played bad though, it probably wouldn't have happened. He had to go perform a little bit a few weeks here.
Yeah, I actually think he's been pretty good, JP. I really do. I don't know that the offensive line overall has been as physical as they would like. I think that's probably one of the areas as you move forward after this season. You probably got to get better there. You got to get more physical there. You got to run the ball better, mainly with the interior guys. But I think they feel like Walker's played pretty well. To your point, you don't sign him if you don't believe that. And I think they believe there's something there. Look, they've waited a long time for him to be the left tackle. They drafted him to be left tackle, but you already had a veteran here in Cam Robinson, and nobody was quite sure when that was going to happen. So I'm not surprised it happened. I'm a little surprised it happened now when it did.
Well, and Frank, if you don't do it now, and I'm not saying it's absolutely the right move to make, you've got to go into free agency, potentially looking for a starter there. It's not the deepest class. You're probably going to have to overpay somebody, and Walker Little might get offers that bump his price up. And then if you don't go that route, you're almost locking yourself into having to spend your top pick on an offensive tackle that has to start right away. So they might have looked at all that in combination and said this gives us the most flexibility.
Yeah, and on top of all that, Mike, I agree with all of it. And on top of all that, it's a premium position, man. You know, there's 2 or 3 positions like that. There's quarterback and then there's everything else, right? Well, once you get to everything else, pass rusher and cover guy and that left tackle, those are your premium positions. So if you feel good about the guy, if you feel the guy can do that, to your point, why not end it right now? And that's what they did.
Frank Franchi with us. Houston Texans are on defense playing really, really good football overall this year, taking the ball away. They're rushing the passer. They've got guys on the back end that can play. So where are you today on the Texans? And, especially on the defensive side of the football, it feels like they're playing extremely well.
Yeah, they're 5th in the league in total defense, JP, and they have played very well. Here's what's interesting. In the first game, those 2 fantastic rush ends, Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson, didn't affect the Jags much. I don't think I called either of their names the entire game. And I thought to myself, wow, as a play-by-play guy, you never mentioned those 2 great pass rushers, which means they didn't affect the game. Now, look, the Texans won the game. I think the Jaguars probably outplayed them for much of that game, but those guys have been very good. But, no, overall, it's a very good defense. Now, they don't have Jalen Petrie. I think he's been a big part of their very good numbers. The safety, he's out, and he's a very good player. But, no, they've been very good defensively. Even in this slide, JP, the Texans have lost 3 or 4 and 4 out of 6, and they're leaking some oil. Most of that's been offense. They've lost some guys to injury. Stephon Diggs gone for the year. C.J. Stroud hasn't been as protected. Their offensive line has not played well. But I think most of their problems, the Texans' problems, have been on offense. I agree with you. Their defense has been kind of the thing that's kept them at 7-5 and in first place in the division.
Now, Frank, how much of Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne would you like to see today?
A whole bunch, Mike. A whole bunch. Your quarterback's coming back, but he's obviously going to be sore. I don't think anybody debates that. He's going to play with a sore shoulder. He hadn't played in a while. It's the first time in a while that both Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne have been totally healthy. I mean, they're both full go, like legit full go now. And it's the first time we've had that in a while, Mike. So, yeah, I think – and look, I love how they complement each other. Tank's the better downhill runner. Travis Etienne's a first-round draft pick who plays well in space. I think you're going to see a whole bunch of both of them. I'd be disappointed if you don't.
And, Frank, to your point, in that Week 4 game, Will Anderson had 2 tackles. Danielle Hunter had 2 tackles and 1 quarterback hit. That's all they had in that game. Let's repeat that again today. That'd be nice to see.
Absolutely. And, again, they did a great job. Again, they outplayed the Texans for much of that game. And that was kind of the story of the first half of their season. It really was.
It was a long time ago. They need to get that back today and get in this game in the fourth quarter and then go win one against the Texans. Frank, have a great day today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, fellas.
No snow in Jacksonville today. It's a beautiful, crystal clear day, and we're back in a moment with network coverage. Countdown to kickoff is coming up. We'll hear from Fred Taylor with his take on today's game against the Texans and the final word before kickoff with Jags head coach Doug Peterson. It's Week 13. Texans-Jaguars coming up. This has been the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.